And we're live. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the Mojo Show, your real estate podcast where we talk everything real estate, home ownership. I'm your host, Joe Mortgage.
And I'm Cup of Joe Mortgage.
This week's episode, we are continuing, actually wrapping up our four-part series on preparing your home for the spring housing market. And today, we're wrapping up the series by discussing using landscaping to enhance the beauty of your home. But before we get to that, I want you to know, by the way, Joe, I love our coffee talks in the morning. I think everybody should, when you get to the office this morning, anybody that's listening right now, whether it's live with the show or you're listening to one of our recordings, our coffee talk here in the beginning of our show, I love it. I think everybody should grab a cup of coffee when you get to the office or wherever you're going and just chat for a minute, with whether it's somebody that you know or don't know, colleague that you're working with.
Yep.
Joe, I know last week we talked a little bit about your daughter, Anna, right?
Yes.
Softball. But my understanding, she weight lifts.
Yep. So powerlifting. And, one thing that I always do is I love talking about my kids, both of them, Hunter and Anna. They amaze me by the things that they do. But Anna, this weekend on Saturday, we drove up to Oklahoma City and she had a powerlifting contest. It was a high school national contest. She's a freshman in high school. She's 15 years old. And she struggled on the first attempt on her squat. And I posted about this on Facebook today because the coach got around to it. So she struggled on her first attempt and she didn't get her first squat. And a lot of times when you don't get your first lift in there, you mentally, it makes the rest of the meet tougher.
Okay.
And I am amazed because she came back and she hit that her second attempt. She got that and was awesome. And she actually PR'd on all three of her lifts. She did a 315-pound squat. She did a 165-pound bench press and a 350-pound deadlift. And it was amazing. And I'm proud of her because not only does she show like her hard work as a physical strength is getting better, but her mental strength to get over that one miss in the very beginning and, just keep driving. So, big dog, Brian is one of my buddies. I was a bouncer with him in security and with him back in college. And as you can see, he's a workout guy. He's one that if you're up in the Denton area and you're looking for a trainer, reach out to Brian Reddick. He's a great guy. I will tell you, Big Dog was one of my good long-term friends. So thank you for tuning in and being there. So
well, I kind of have a question for you.
Did you see his comment real quick?
Yes, it's similar to his next comments. So I'm wondering, has Anna, kind of like, Tiger Woods' son is getting to the point of out driving his dad. Is she outlifting dad now, or where are we at on that?
Oh man. I will tell you this. I am trying. Can we go on to the next? Now, I am trying to get back into it with both of them. We have some things here at the house. I have committed to entering into a powerlifting contest for age groups in June. So as long as my shoulder can hold out, I have to beat her at least. I don't know if I'm gonna beat Hunter, but if I don't beat her, then I know Brian. I know he'll give me a hard time about it for sure. But she's strong, man. I'll beat her on bench press, but I don't think I'm going to get her on squat, to tell you the truth, or deadlift. But I'll try. It'll be interesting. We'll have to film it so you can make fun of me.
No, we don't want to make fun of you. We just want to laugh. That's all.
Right. But yeah, thank you for asking. She's amazing. But one thing that you talked about is taking time to have coffee talk.
Yeah.
That it means a lot. Even if you're one of the leaders at your company, stopping and talking to somebody that feels like they're not a leader, that makes their whole day better. And I used to do that when we were in a call center kind of environment and things like that. We do that a lot at our office. When you come up, you see it. It means a lot more to somebody else than maybe it means to you. And making a difference in somebody's morning can make them more productive the rest of the day. So take time just to say hi to somebody, ask them how they're doing, ask like you did about my daughter.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
awesome about coffee talk.
Yes, absolutely. Good stuff. Although whenever it's whenever I do the coffee talk, I'm usually ranting about something. You're talking great things about your kids and stuff, and I end up ranting about something. So maybe when I'm talking, it'll be Joe's rant instead of coffee talk. We'll see.
Hey, sometimes you need those in the morning. Makes your day better. So
Well, let's get going with the show and introducing our special guest. I am super excited about who we have on for our guest show today. Her and her husband are good friends of mine and fellow Northerners, if you will. They are from Ohio, but I try not to hold that against them. Thankfully, she's not an Ohio State fan. Her husband is, so of course, him and I go at it a little bit, but. Tanya has owned her own landscaping design company for the past 10 years now, McIntyre Design, where she designs and installs landscapes for customers in the Houston area. Please welcome to the show, Tanya McIntyre. Joe, you were supposed to bring her on.
I didn't do that. Thank you for pointing that out. Tanya,
hello.
Welcome to the show, Tanya.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on the show today. It's actually a privilege to be with you. You guys help people get into their homes and make their dreams come true. So it's really nice that you invited me on the show today. Thank you.
Well, Absolutely. We're excited to have you here. Before I ask you a little bit about yourself, if any of our listeners, as you have questions, as Tanya's talking through this, please put them in the comments for us. Make sure you love the different things. We want this to be interactive. So anything that you have questions on, I know she'll answer and talk through it. But Tanya, before you get into your business and things like that, tell our viewers a little bit about you and how you came into being a landscape designer.
Well, thank you. We, like Joe said, we came from Ohio, and we absolutely fell in love with the Houston area. The biggest change was the climate change when we came down here. As you can imagine, winter in Ohio is pretty crazy. But when I moved down here, the plants and the landscape business was completely different than what I was used to. I was a Penn State graduate and well educated in those northern plants, so it was a learning curve when I came down here, and I waited to jump into the landscape business until I was kind of well educated.
I can only imagine the native Texas plants are a lot different than what my in-laws are from Minnesota, so bringing them down here has been a change because they're trying to figure out what do we plant. He planted a lot of things that just did not grow and died because he was used to doing them up there. And I was like, yeah, you're gonna have to go with a little bit drier kind of root systems down here because summertimes it just dries out everything. So
it's brutal. Mm-hmm.
One thing, Joe and I, we do a lot of open houses and we drive around to all these places, and one of the things that we're trying to figure out is what are the best things to do that attracts people's eyes to those homes. Tell us a little bit about your concept when it comes to that.
It's a good question because you really want the buyers to step into your house, and the first thing they'll see is the outside of your house. So you really need to have that curb appeal. You need to make sure things are cleaned up. There's some pruning to be done, weeding, mulching, and mowing. Make it look just as nice as you have the inside. You really want to have the outside looking just as nice.
Okay. When it comes to the shrubberies and things, people have different ways of doing it. Does it matter on the plant? The bushes, rounding them off or squaring them up? You say cleaning it up. So what are some of the ideas that catches people's eyes, in your opinion, more from a design aspect?
Well, It actually depends on the shrub. There are some shrubs that you can certainly prune very tight and very round or very square. And there's also others that you should probably just keep their natural shape and do some hand pruning. So it kind of depends on the shrub, and also it depends on the look that you're going for and maintenance. You know, if you're out there pruning a shrub that's going to grow about 2 feet a year, you're probably going to be clipping that shrub probably about every other week just to keep it in that round shape. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very difficult. So it kind of depends on the shrubs.
It's like mowing your yard.
That's right. Yeah. And you don't have time to mow your yard and clip the shrubs. So maintenance really is key.
I gotcha. What are other things that you recommend kind of draws your eye to that curb appeal that you talked about?
A lot of people like the annual flowers, and they add a pop of color. But I think you can also achieve the same thing by buying a large planter, maybe in a different color than kind of everything else, kind of draw your eye in. And you don't necessarily have to use annuals, you know, the plants that you plant every year and they die. You can actually put in a nice evergreen or some ornamental grasses or something that really, you know, makes it feel very pleasant when you first see the house. But a decorative pot would be maybe 2 or 3 sometimes would really look nice.
You mean like those big ceramic colored kind of pots kind
Yeah.
of things?
Yeah,
Right?
those are really nice. And sometimes sometimes it's overwhelming, and you go to the store to go pick one out. A lot of times people buy something too small, and they underestimate it, and it really doesn't make an impact. So in this instance, you want to go big with
Okay.
it, really eye catching.
Yeah.
That's a
Okay.
good point. And I like the planner idea.
Mhm.
Putting it into a planner, especially if you're doing, in my opinion, the annuals, because then you're not having to pull it all out of the flower bed. You can just pull it out of that pot and redo the pot every year.
Yep. Mhm.
That's a great way of preserving, just the landscaping of it too. So
Mhm.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm one, Tanya, that I am not by any means a green thumb. I don't have plants in my house because they die. You know, I've never owned a cactus, but I would probably imagine that would die too if I owned it. So as far as, but yet I like the flowers and stuff out front, outside and stuff as kind of the entrance, coming in and stuff. I'm just not that good at that. But I mean, at what point, because some people love doing that, planting flowers, like we are just talking about in the ceramic pots and planters and stuff. But at what point really should someone hire someone like you, a landscape architect, to do all of this stuff?
That's a great question. Going to a nursery can even be very overwhelming. If you want to do it yourself, you go there and you go, wow, there's more plants here than I realized. So when you have a landscape that doesn't just need sprucing up, and you have the overgrown shrubs that are as tall as your house and hiding windows, or if you have a tree that's half dead and you need somebody to take it down, you need some strong backs a lot of times to remove those overgrown shrubs and something that just, when you're selling a house, you want to see the house. You don't want these overgrown shrubs to be in the way. So that's probably the time to hire a landscape designer and help you through that process.
I would admit, I'm like Joe. I'm not a green thumb. Maybe it's just the name Joe. With ours, I think we added some landscape rocks or whatever you want to call it, around the trees and built up flower beds around them. And I have more weeds in there than I have anything else. And we've tried over and over to get things to grow under the trees. So is there a certain type of plant that I want to look for in those areas that are shaded by the trees? Because we have big oak trees, big pine tree, or I don't know if it's pine, it might be cedar, but that only, we don't get much sun at all. and everything I've planted there just dies. And I've tried the full shade, I've tried all these things, but is there any recommendations that you have out there for people that kind of struggle with that same thing?
I do. If you're struggling with weeds, and then sometimes and the shaded area, sometimes it's just better just to mulch it and just
Okay.
kind of let it be nice and clean, and easy to maintain. So then you're not struggling with there's plants underneath here and there's weeds. So if it's just a simple mulch, then your eye doesn't really draw you don't your eye doesn't go there and see both the weeds and the plants. So
Okay.
I would say just mulch it.
So this is where Joe, told you yesterday that I go off script. I'm about to do that to you. When it comes to mulch, there's multiple different ones out there. I want your opinion on the tire mulch. I don't know.
Yes, I want to know
I had
about that too.
somebody,
Is it
I
worth
had
investing
somebody
in
buy
that?
that. Yeah, I had somebody buy that, and I spread it out in their garden. I was trying to help them out, and it was odd to me. I would love your feedback on,
Yeah.
the rubber mulch, because I think of that in like playgrounds, like elementary schools and things like
Sure.
that, because it's
Mhm.
better than rocks.
Right.
Yeah.
But in a flower bed, so tell me your opinion on the different types of mulches and which ones you think are better for plants, because
Right.
I don't see rubber being the best thing around your plants, but that's my opinion.
And that's a great question. You try and figure out what the best type of mulch is for your landscape. Um, One thing about mulch is the great thing is it keeps in moisture for the health of the plants, um, and it also helps with weeds. It keeps down the weeds, so that's the main thing for mulch: moisture, and keeps the weeds down. Um, and also, you want it to blend with the landscape. You don't want to draw your eye to mulch. You want to see the house. You want to see how the other landscapes, or the flowers and the shrubs and things like that. You want to see the whole picture. You don't want to draw your eye to the mulch. Now with the rubber mulch, that actually, when it rains, a lot of times it moves because it doesn't absorb a lot of moisture. So if you have a large amount of rain coming down, that rubber mulch kind of moves, and
Okay.
and it might even leave the bed. So you really have to secure it if you're really interested in the rubber mulch. I would keep it just in a play area, but keep in mind it does get hot. It is black, and we live in Houston, and it's hot in the summer.
And that brings up a great point. It doesn't take in the moisture, and a lot of times, mulch, you want it to help lower your water bill also,
Yes.
Mm.
because if it holds in the moisture, then you're not having to water it over and over and over in the same day, where you
Hmm.
can water it maybe once a day or twice a day. That's something that I know you'll probably tell people, but I think it'll help people lower the amount of water that they're using at the same time if they
Yes,
use
it will.
just the good old wood mulch, is the way that I'm going to put that. So,
Yes. Yes.
okay. Okay. Um, Go ahead, Joe. I know you had
Well,
questions. I talked too much.
to kind of caveat onto that with the wood mulch, and by the way, anyone listening right now, if I know we're asking Tanya a lot of questions, but if you've got questions on your landscape, because it's getting ready, I mean, this is the season right now to be planting, right? That the people
Yes.
are doing all this. So if you've
Hmm.
got questions, post them up there, and we'll get them answered right with Tanya here. But with the mulch, just the standard wood mulch, is it good to redo that every year? And like, whatever mulch was on there last year, just add it right on top. Is that something to do every year, should we, or just when it looks like it needs to be done?
It should be done every year. The problem with that is some of the mulches don't decompose as quickly
Mhm.
as often as you want to apply it. So if you put on 3 inches of mulch every year, eventually that's going to add up. And then, so probably about 3 years down the line, you're going to have to remove some of the mulch to put on fresh mulch to make it look fresh, because it's wood chips and it will decompose into soil, and which is a good thing to help
Mhm.
replenish the soil. But if you have too much mulch on your trees, it can be harmful. to your trees and shrubs. But stay away from the dyed mulch. If you ask me, I think you would go with a nice shredded hardwood mulch, native to your area. I think that would be the best mulch to use.
When you say dyed mulch, excuse me, can you explain what you mean by that? Because like for me, I'm thinking like colored mulches. Is that what you're meaning? Or
Like
is
the
there a
browns
certain?
or the reds kind of mulch.
Yes.
Is that what you
Yeah.
mean?
Yes, absolutely. Those the ones that are black and red, and I think they even have a brown mulch. But again, you're taking your eye away from the beauty of the landscape if you have this shocking red color where the soil is. When soil is not red, soil is brown, and you don't want to take away of the beauty of the landscape. Keep it as a whole. Don't use the red mulch, personally. Mhm.
All right.
Now, does any of the dyes have any effect on the soil, or is it just because of the eyes that you're thinking?
Not
just
that I'm
asking.
aware of.
Okay.
But it's sometimes it's what the hardwood is made of, the wood itself. Sometimes it's recycled pallets, and sometimes they have chemicals in it. They're treated with something. So it kind of depends on more of what the hardwood is actually made out of. So if it's a recycled pallet, a lot of times they don't decompose as quickly as a hardwood mulch.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then, you're talking about the curb appeal, and thank you for all the information that you're giving us.
Mhm.
What are, people spend money on these things and you see them during the sunlight. What are
Mhm.
some recommendations that you have so people can show off their homes and that curb appeal when somebody's driving around in the evening?
Mhm.
Also, what are some things that you recommend for that?
Uh, that's a great question. You know, you spend a lot of time outside during the daytime, but there's also some of those hours where you're in the backyard with your friends, and it's good to have some landscape lighting. And if you're trying to buy a house, driving by the house at night or at different times than you normally would, you can get the buyers to really look at your house if you have landscape lighting out front.
No, that's great. And then with the lighting, you see a lot of them where they have the spotlights that are shining up trees or in trees shining down,
Mhm.
and all around the like sidewalks or around your shrubbery. What kind of lighting do you recommend? Do you recommend like battery powered or solar? Do you recommend more try to get wired? It might be a little bit more expensive, but last longer. Like, which ones do you recommend when it comes to that?
There's there's a lot out there. You can buy something that's you can buy something at your garden center or your Lowe's and Home Depot. But I do recommend to invest in the landscape lighting because a lot of it is what you don't see. You can spend a lot of money at the Lowe's and the Home Depot on lights and do it yourself, but they might not last long. And if you hire a professional to get it done correctly, and not all landscapers actually know how to do landscape lighting. I would contact a actual landscape lighting professional, and they do the underground wiring. It's low powered, so if you hit the wire with your shovel, because you don't see it, it's all underground, and it's what you don't see is what really is the impact. Um, that really helps it out. And a landscape professional lighting designer can really balance out your house at night and really enhance the architecture of your house and the trees and landscaping around it.
That's awesome.
Hmm. Hmm. I've
A lot of
seen,
things to think of.
Mhm.
well, I don't know if you have this, Joe, but I've seen not so much talking about the lighting. It just kind of popped in my head because I know you've got a pool, Joe, and I've seen people have these like stones, rocks in different spot. They're speakers,
Yep.
Mhm.
right? Actual speakers. Those are cool,
Mhm.
and it adds an accent to the landscape. But it's an actual speaker.
Yeah. We had some of those out in Arizona that were professionally put in. I would recommend do not try to do those yourself either, because just like I tell you, it's the underground stuff that makes a difference. And if you run the wrong type of wiring and you're doing like indoor speaker wire and things like that, it does not last very long when it rains. Out in Arizona, it lasted a long time, but here in Texas, it does not. So
that's correct. Mm-hmm.
But I really appreciate you coming on. These are things that people don't always think about. And, if you're preparing your home, getting that visual attraction, it's like making a first impression. If your first impression of somebody is not good, you're not going to meet them for coffee and get to know them more. It's the same for a house. If you're driving by and that first impression is the outside looks, janky, or it's got a bunch of weeds, and you're trying to sell it, you're not, people aren't going to come inside and look. And even if you have it really beautiful inside, because your first impression of the house could deter them from coming in. So I think that's a great way for our agents that listen, for our clients that are thinking of selling their houses, to get with somebody. Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you, because people down in the Houston area, we need you to be able to reach out to Tanya and utilize her to get your house ready. And even if you're not selling it, it's a great way to have that curb appeal when you drive home and you're like, oh, I love coming home, versus coming home and like, oh, I got to do this stuff this weekend. So
you're absolutely right, Joe. You and I have been to a lot of different open houses, and I walk in and the inside of the house is beautiful. The outside, just there, people drive up and they don't even want to go in, right? I mean, or they see, because the pictures on whether it's hard.com or Zillow or wherever, those pictures up front, I mean, that's what draws them in, whether it's the different colors or plants and that are used to help accent and show off the architecture of the home. So really great information this week, Tanya. I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your insights and that with all of our listeners. If any of you want to get a hold of Tanya and bounce things off of her, or get her helping you with your landscape design, that you see down at the bottom, we have her contact information, phone number, and Instagram address there, McIntyre_designs. You can definitely reach out to her to get her. And then next week, folks, we're going to start a new series, kind of caveating from the series we just wrapped up on preparing your home for the spring housing market. We're going to actually get into the realtor side of this and discussing their viewpoints on actually doing open houses, whether it's staging or whether how they work with the clients beforehand in getting ready for the open house, what they do at open houses, all these different things and more. So be sure to tune in next week at our usual time, Wednesday mornings, 9 a.m. Do want to thank everyone for listening in, and little comments. I see those hearts, thumbs up. Thank you so much. We appreciate everyone. If you want to catch any of our past episodes, be sure to go to our YouTube channel, The Mojo Show Real Estate Podcast. Please like, follow, share, and most of all, hit the subscribe button while you're there. Joe and I are definitely on a mission by the end of the year to get to 1,000 subscribers. So we're hitting that hopefully by the end of this year. So please go there, hit the subscribe button. Joe, before I close things out, any last words, sir?
Just thank you so much for coming on. Our special guests make this show a little bit better. It also shows, not a little bit, it makes the show better. People don't have to listen to just Joe and I. And the information that you provided today, it really helps people with that curb appeal. So thank you very much for coming on, Tanya.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm Joe Mortgage, and that handsome guy there with the beard is Cup of Joe Mortgage, and we'll see you next week. Mr.